Hello, everyone. This is the Broken Christian Man podcast. My name is Scott. The show's about what it's like to be a Christian in the real world. Topics that we may or may not agree on, but we still need to talk about them to find a path forward and to better understanding each other so that we can live more Christian lives. If you're interested in this kind of a show, tune out to the world, tune in to what we're talking about, and let's see if we can influence each other in a positive way. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Wanted to share a story with you guys today. I don't know if y'all know where the origin of meditation beads came from, and meditation beads are a part of a lot of things. If you ever see Catholics pray their rosary beads, those are meditation beads. They're actually older than the Catholic Church. In all actuality, they originated in India, and they're a part of Buddhism as well. And how it came about is that they would have celebrations in India celebrating their gods. And if you don't know anything about Hinduism gods are generally represented by an animal of sorts, except for their main god, Krishna. He represented by a blue figure. But, for instance, in this scenario, one of the gods that they have that they march through the lines of kiosks and kind of like a parade is an elephant. And an elephant represents the god of immovable objects. So they'd have problems with the elephants a lot of times. They would see fruit or whatnot, and they'd take their trunk and they would grab it, or they would destroy the kiosks. And so what they found was if they took a bamboo stick and they gave it to the elephant to hold in its trunk, then it wouldn't go after the fruit. And the reason why is because it would have to drop the stick, and it didn't know how to multitask or didn't see the higher goal of if I drop this, I can get this. And so that's how they believed through that method of taming the elephants. They realized that, hey, if I have something in my hand, something to roll around in my fingertips or whatnot, that's going to distract my mind. And if I distract my mind, I can keep it calm during meditation because I can focus on what I'm feeling in my hands. And, that's a part of the meditation practices. And I do find that, in Catholicism and even in a lot of modern meditation, a lot of times you find something that you meditate on. It's not new to Christianity. It's not new. It's more of like a mantra. You'll find that in Hinduism or Buddhism. A lot of times, it's all about calming the mind. So they'll have like a mantra to focus on. And Christianity, when we do Christian meditation, you're more or less meditating on the Word of God. So you're taking something out of the Bible that you've read and meditating on it, and we're just thinking very deeply on it in a off away from things. It's tough to concentrate whenever you got a lot going on around you, or you're watching TV, or you're talking with friends. So it's important to get away from everybody. But this does bring up something that's very interesting that is brought up in the Bible, and it is about serving two masters. And so I find this interesting. You can find this in Matthew 6:24 through 26, and it says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or he will devote to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." Now, although this comes across like it's about possessions, and to a degree it is, but they pick out money, which money can be related to greed. But you could also relate this to other things like drugs, sex, any addiction that you can think of, food, anything that you're going to place before God. And so, when you're looking at your life and you have all these temptations around you, because the other thing is that the world can also become a master. You can love the world and hate God. And, we're called to love God. If we put God first, then everything else comes second. And it relates to us as individuals. It's almost the prime conduct measuring stick. Because you find if you put God first, and it's one of the commandments, love God. It's the first commandment, love God with all your heart and soul. The second one is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, can you imagine if we put this into practice in the world? I mean, it makes sense. A lot of people, just like I said, they're mad. They act like they're mad at God, but the reality of it is they're not mad at God. They're mad at a church. They're mad at a person in a church. And I'm not saying churches are bad, but you do need to compare whomever's leading the church to the Bible. They need to be sticking in that realm. But if we did this, if we could honor people like God asks us to, putting ourselves at the bottom. And in Jesus' very example, Jesus went from having everything in heaven to having nothing as a human and experiencing all of our temptations and all of our problems. And to also experience such pain. A lot of people think Jesus just went around doing miracles but I think that he also experienced a lot of pain too. There's times it mentions in the Bible Jesus wept or he was exerted, especially the night before his crucifixion. He was exerted. He was stressed out. He was scared. He experienced our fears. I mean, that's normal. Anybody who is going to come up on death and know that it's going to be a painful death at that, you're going to have your worries. You're going to have your fear. You're going to have your anxieties. It's scary. And the world's like that. We spend so much time worrying about tomorrow that we really forget to concentrate on today. I've seen individuals in my life, especially as individuals get older, and they have had friends that have passed away. They have had, they've experienced the pains of life, and it makes them bitter. A lot of times, I find that some individuals that are advanced in years get bitter. They get angry. But they're worn down. They're tired. But at the same time, I think this is good for everybody. Because whenever I'm going through all the pains and frustrations of the world, if I put God first, then I experience a kind of peace that helps me deal with all those other frustrations, all of those other pains. It's a pain. Dealing with some kind of nasty dude at the gas station who butts in line in front of you or cuts you off in traffic. If you learn to, kind of be forgiving and show the fruits of the Spirit, you actually don't have to carry anything with you. You don't have to carry that aggravation, that irritation with you because, you're kind of just saying, hey, God, I'm going to let you handle it because you can handle it better than me. And that is where the peace without understanding comes from with being a Christian. Jesus says, put your yoke on me because my yoke is light. So he's saying, cast the world and cast the problems of the world and let him deal with it. You just deal with what you can today. And today's scary. We have so much fear and we can't trust our media necessarily. I don't think that we get a good point of view of the world through our media. I feel like they just kind of report on what's popular and what's going to get ratings. At the same time, I feel like they only report on things that are not going to get them in trouble by the government. I still think this started in Vietnam, but I feel like it still goes on today, that our media has to play by the rules with the government. They can't report on everything. But though we can't trust the media, we can trust what we read in the Bible. I think what circling back around to serving two masters, I think it's important to note that you have to, whenever you let go of a master, like let's say you're addicted to drugs and you're tired of it. Well, in order to make improvement in your life, you have to let go of that master. And when you let go of that master, what happens is it frees your hand up. All right. And so whenever you free yourself up, you let that go, you give up control. And we hate the idea of giving up control. We think that we're in control whenever we're really not. A lot of times you'll say, oh, I can control everything. I've got, I've got my house. I've got a good job. I've been at that job for a long time. They can't do without me. My car's paid off. My house is paid off. I've got lots of friends. All of this was within my control. And it's really not. You cannot control life. As much as you think that you can, and as much as we like to talk about our achievements, the thing about them is they're fleeting. So you've got a nice house and it's paid for. Well, say you get a tornado that comes through and takes it out. Now you're subject to the control of the world, because what are you going to get in return for your house? Whatever the fair market value was, you may have put more money in that house through upgrades and whatnot, but you're through FEMA, you're only going to get a fair market value back out of it. You're not going to get anything that's special that you put out of that. Same thing with a car. Same thing with a job. Your company could go belly up. So much in life is uncertain. That's why, life and the world is always referred to the sea, because the sea, the ocean, is chaotic and a force that you cannot control, and that's life. So we have to give things up. So by letting go of our master, we're open to receive a master that's not asking anything of us other than to be good people, to serve and observe the words of that master, which would be Jesus. And you look at it, it's simple. Tithing, all these other things that are considered things that you got to do if you're a Christian is not actually things that you have to do to be a Christian, to be saved. You do not have to do them to be saved. Those are things that are observances, but whenever it comes down to Jesus, he wants us to give of ourselves. That's where, and so often that flips things on our heads. What's the most valuable thing that you have? It's not your car. It's not your house. It's you. You can buy a new car. You can buy a new house. You can't buy a new you. You can't buy a new soul. So whenever you're opening your hands and you're letting go of all the masters in your life, because there's more than one, but I don't know a heroin addict, or I've never met a heroin addict that really loves heroin. They love how it makes them feel, but they hate how their life is turning out. They hate that master. They need a new master to serve. Some of the sobrieties that live long are those who find Christ. Well, why is that? Why is it? Because they traded a bad master for a good master. And you've got your skeptics. Well, why does he got to be our master? Because he gives us the peace. There is something to this world, and we all know it. I do not deny that there is more out there in the unseen realm. I never have. I've always felt it. I've always knew it. And if I talk to an atheist or I talk to anybody, I pick on atheist because it's the belief of nothing. Nothing's out there. You don't go anywhere where you die. You just go into oblivion, and that's that. But even atheists feel like there's a higher power. You will find that there is a percentage of atheists that are atheists because they don't believe in God, but they believe there's a higher power, which that's still believing in a God. If you believe there's a higher power, then you're believing there's a God there. And most of what we do with the world, when we love the world, when we have the world as our master and we don't live a part of it, because the Bible tells us to love God, not the world. It calls us to be the salt of the earth and be set apart. We're to be set apart from the world. That's such a hard thing for a lot of folks. I really don't know why. No, it's not easy to be a Christian, but it is at the same time. It is a gift. Christ gives us salvation and gives us grace in a world that we have no control over. He's saying, I will be here for, I will be your friend, I will take care of you, I will do my best to be a friend worth having. I will guide you through the tough times. And largely he guides us through our, through the Bible. But also there's gut feelings. Everybody will tell, a lot of people, well, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people say, well, I felt it in my gut. Man, I don't know what it was. I just felt like there was somebody watching me. Oh, and there was a dangerous person. Or, oh man, I felt like something wasn't right. And all of a sudden I stopped and this car whizzed by and I almost stepped out in front of them. Well, who do you think that is? Oh, well, it was my intuition. Well, where does intuition come from? You know, if you want to live towards an atheistic value, none of that exists. So that's complete garbage if you want to live from an atheistic point of view. And how depressing is that point of view? To believe in nothing. You know, when Jesus calls us to his side and he calls us to be, his children and to learn and to grow as people through his ways, which I challenge anybody to find a way of living that's in the Bible that tells you a rule for conduct to better your life. And I'm not talking better your possessions. I'm talking about better your life, how you feel about yourself. I challenge anybody to look in the Bible, read it, and tell me it's telling you to do something negative. Well, I can read the Bible, but why do I got to believe in a God? Well, where did the word come from? Well, it came from a really smart man. Well, actually, the Bible is one book that has a lot of different chapters in it. There are a lot of different smaller books. The Bible we refer to as the collection, but all these prophets, it's one book with lots of books. It's really odd that all of those prophets and all of those authors in the Bible kept it all straight. And we can prove that the Bible was written over time. That is provable. You can prove that different chapters were written at different times, and sometimes they were hundreds of years apart in writing. The writings of Jesus and the New Testament is a good 500 years. A good 500 years. And I'm just guesstimating. But I know it's at least 500 years between the last book of the Old Testament. Yet they still stay in sync. They still stay in sync. That's really hard to do. And they can say, well, one Bible was before the other and they kept it around, they just copied out of it. Well, I mean, what are all these newer instances that are going on? Because Israel was dealing with a lot of crap throughout the Old Testament to stay in sync. And there's a lot of crap that was going on in the New Testament. There is not any point in time in the Bible that there was not some kind of occupation going on where Israel was either on guard to keep their land or they were trying to preserve their land. There's not any point in time. The Bible actually has a lot of conflict. It has a lot in it about dealing with being under a master you don't like, whether it be Persia, whether it be Rome, even the corrupt rulers of the Israelites, because they had bad kings. We most notably know about King David, but they had bad kings. They had kings that caused them to sin against God, and God punished them. And if you'll notice, a good king sticks in. Generally, they have a good time of prosperity. They have a bad king, and they end up in some kind of exile of sorts, or the leaders are taken from the land. The thing is that Jesus calls us to be better than our earthly desires and calls us to be people that are going to honor his ways. And, I said about tithing, no, Jesus wants you to give you. Tithing is a footnote, but it is not the whole piece of it. If you look at any time in the Bible when Jesus makes a comment of what people are giving, it is because they're giving everything. They're not giving, In fact, Jesus pokes fun at in a way, not really poking fun, but uses an example of how rich people can give just so easily. They'll give their tenth and it's not a problem. But you have people that are not rich, very poor, and they're giving, if you really quantify it, everything they have, their last 2 cents that they had to live on. What if we did that? As a people, what if we did that for each other? Well, we do that by honoring the way Christ taught us. You can go on your tangents about the Bible being a fairy tale book, and you're honestly wrong. Historically, you can trace stuff that's happened in the Bible. You can trace it. Those things happened. They're verifiable by more than one source. You have your exceptions, the personal stories. You take Noah, or you take Jonah. Noah and Jonah, for instance. Those are personal perspective stories. It's told from a first person of a happening. But the Bible as a whole, there's very little of that. You can see that it's verifiable. The exiles happened around the same time. It is a written piece. We know that Jesus did exist, whether you believe he was the Son of God or not. He existed. Although we think Jesus was some kind of unique name, it wasn't. There's a lot of people named Jesus. But the reality of it is that Jewish historians recognize that there was a man named Jesus who was persecuted and crucified. And we hear the written record after he was. When you go into Acts, he had to have had disciples. These are people that are stating the same things from their account of it in their books, but they're stating that they're conferring and agreeing with each other. There's a lot of good from it. A lot of people just get into that whole match of I want to be right so much that I'm just missing the forest for the trees. Don't be that person. Take a good, hard look at yourself. Take a good, hard look at solid doctrine. Anyway, I pray for everyone. I pray to God and hope that he blesses this time to where it blesses you. I hope you all have a great week. Well, that's all we have for today. If you could, please like and subscribe to the podcast. And while you're there, please give us a rating. Also, please check us out on Instagram under Broken Christian Man, and also under Twitter under Broken_CM. Thank you.